It is exactly 10:30 p.m. Asmara time. We're now ready for our English news broadcast. Hello and thank you for joining us. And do stay tuned for domestic and international news for Friday, the 28th of February. Reporting live from our headquarters in Asmara and inviting you to stay with us is Heaven Johannes, your news anchor for this session. Let's begin with the major headlines. President Isaias held talks with AU Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security. 20th regular meeting of the Northern Red Sea Region Assembly. The US says it can no longer subsidize NATO. And COP countries to generate $200 billion a year to preserve biodiversity. In our domestic news, President Isaias Afwerki met and held extensive discussions yesterday evening at the Denden Guest House with His Excellency Ban Kol Adoye, African Union's Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, on continental challenges and particularly on recent developments and trends in the Horn of Africa. President Isaias referred to the unacceptable practices and propensity of extremist forces to portray Africa as the poster child of civil wars, essentially in order to rationalize their insidious acts to meddle in and manage these conflicts. Unfortunately, the AU has so far failed to take remedial measures to correct these practices. The primary focus should be to prevent the eruption of conflicts instead of funneling time and energy on managing wars and crises, President Isaias emphasized. The AU's structural weaknesses, coupled with external intervention, are hampering the continental organization from fulfilling the aspirations and expectations of the African people. Sadly, the AU has lost the capacity and means to say no and reject the complicating agenda certain countries continue to exhibit to advance their perceived interests. President Isaias underlined that in Eritrea's perspectives, development plans that are charted out are closely intertwined with the promotion and crystallization of peace and security in the wider Horn of Africa, Nile Basin, Red Sea and Gulf regions. On the Sudan, Eritrea's firm and pronounced position has been and remains for the tragic conflict to be resolved by the Sudanese people themselves. Yet external forces continue to compound and exacerbate the conflict, thereby hampering the stability of the region. Eritrea strongly believes in a strong Somalia that occupies its rightful place in the region. In this respect, Eritrea continues to make its modest contributions in strengthening the Somali National Army and related institutions. The meeting was attended by Mr. Usman Saleh, Minister of Foreign Affairs. In a brief statement, the Eritrean news agency Commissioner Adoye stated that discussions he conducted with President Isaias Afwerki on developments in the Horn of Africa and especially on the prevailing situations in the Sudan and Somalia were both profound and insightful. In another news, the Northern Red Sea Region Assembly held its 20th regular meeting on the 25th and 26th of February in the port city of Massawa under the theme Unremitting Effort for a Bright Future. Mr. Ibrahim Ali Sheikh, chairman of the Regional Assembly, highlighted the significant impact of community participation and the role of the defense forces in implementing development programs. He urged Assembly members to collaborate with the public in addressing emerging challenges. Participants engaged in extensive discussions on the presented report and adopted several key recommendations, including reinforcing efforts in water and soil conservation, expanding and renovating social service institutions, strengthening price control mechanisms for essential commodities, as well as implementing strict measures to combat deforestation. Additionally, they called for greater public awareness campaigns to eradicate harmful practices, mainly underage marriages and female genital mutilation. Ms. Asmara Abraha, governor of the region, commended the unwavering contributions of the community and the defense forces in advancing the region's development programs. She also encouraged active involvement from Assembly members in ensuring the success of potable water projects, the construction and renovation of health and educational facilities, and environmental conservation initiatives. The 50th anniversary of the Asmara massacre was commemorated, marking a historic event that reinforced nationalism and patriotism among the Eritrean people. Mr. Tekiyek Alata, Director General of Administration and Finance in the Central Region, stated that the commemoration program, organized in collaboration with the Commission of Culture and Sports, was aimed to honor the heavy sacrifices made for national independence. It also sought to educate younger generations about the atrocities committed by Ethiopian regimes against innocent Eritrean civilians. Mr. Tekiyek further proposed that 15 February be officially designated as a day of commemoration of the Asmara massacre. He also advocated for the introduction of research-based initiatives to ensure the systematic transmission of the historical event to future generations. The commemoration program included reports on administrative and cultural activities, a photo exhibition, public parades, as well as the active participation of taxi owners, associations, and students. Certificates of recognition were awarded to institutions and individuals in appreciation of their contributions to the event. Mr. Fisahaya Haile, Governor of the Central Region, commended those who played a role in organizing the event and called for the annual commemoration of the Asmara massacre to be maintained as a tradition. This wraps up our domestic news for this session. Dear viewers, we'll be back with the international ones after the short break. Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the United States can no longer allow its West European NATO allies to take advantage of his country to fund their defense budgets. The official further added that the current U.S. administration considers it unfair that some wealthy West European member states only spend 1 to 1.5% of their GDPs on defense. U.S. President Donald Trump has argued that NATO's current defense spending target of 2% of GDP per year, already a challenge for a number of member states, is too low and should be raised to 5%. During his re-election campaign, Trump said he would absolutely consider leaving the bloc if members do not pay their bills. The United States allocates around 3.4% of its GDP to military expenditures, according to a 2023 estimate by the World Bank. In contrast, European NATO members spend an average of 1.9%, less than 60% of the U.S.'s spending, Reuters reported earlier this month. In today's final report, countries reached a deal to generate $200 billion a year to help preserve the world's biodiversity in an international conference in Rome on the 27th of February. The financing deal was crucial in supporting a global pledge made in 2022 to protect 30% of land and oceans by 2030, often referred to as the 30 by 30 target. The deal was agreed at a resumed session of the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, which originally convened in the Colombian city of Cali last October, but ran into overtime and lost quorum. Throughout the negotiations in Rome, countries stressed the need for multilateralism to overcome a step back from the United States in international aid and other multilateral forums. The United States, expected to generate significant amount of aid in preserving biodiversity, is not a party to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity and did not sign the agreement. With this, we conclude our news for this session. Dear viewers, time for a quick recap of the major headlines. President Isaias held talks with AU Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security. 20th regular meeting of the Northern Red Sea Region Assembly. US says it can no longer subsidize NATO. And COP 16 countries to generate $200 billion a year to preserve biodiversity. This was World on Friday with ERi-TV English news broadcast. Dear viewers, thank you for joining and have a good weekend.